Tell us more about how you transitioned from the military to the working with groups and teams in the organization and corporate world.
Well, when we got done with the military, we finished up that Special Forces project. I said to the guys, doing this work is great. Right? We work with people who really want us to work with them. They play at a high level. They're doing important stuff in the world. That's fantastic. The process of getting to do it, dealing with the Army's contracting process and all this stuff, is sufficiently odious that I don't know that I want to keep it up. So I think what we're going to do is try our hand at the corporate world. And believe it or not, this is going to be more challenging. And they all look at me like I'm nuts, right? And I go,
how can it be harder than the military?
I said, I don't mean physically, but think of it this way. In the corporate world, there's no spring training, there's no off season, there's no stand down, there's no timeout, right? The game goes all the time. And on any given team, and we're now using that term advisedly, there's a vast gap in the level of competence and commitment on the part of the players. How do we work in that arena? So we designed this little program, and I said, okay, this is cool. Now here's what we're going to do. I'm going to put together a little business plan and go out and see if we can raise some money, right? And I don't want to be like a Werner Erhard, right? I don't want it to be about me. It's got to be about the content, right? So, Sports Mind. Catchy name, people can kind of get it, it'll work, and they're looking at me like, what do you know about right? You never read a business plan? What the hell are you talking about? Are you drunk?
Yeah.
Like, no, it'll be great. And they're like, no. I said, yeah, well, so I wrote a business plan, and they're all kind of shaking their heads, and I go and talk to a couple friends of mine, tell me what you think about this. Well, it's cool, we like you, but I don't think it's going to work really well, because you're talking about trying to raise money for a service business, which is really hard to begin with. Most people aren't going to understand it, but knock yourself out. So I get an introduction to this potential investor. Now you have to remember, this is 1985. There's no venture capital, no angel funds. There's none of that stuff. That's the whole, ecology of startups today. None of that existed. Very first guy I talked to says, "Wow, this is amazing, absolutely cool." Cuts me a check for $450 grand in 1985.
Oh man!
So I'm left, thinking, well, what's so hard about this? What's the big
This is
deal?
easy.
Jesus, what's the big deal? What's everybody all agitated about? So we get our funding. This guy had a partner, and he owned a manufacturing company over in Shelton, which, for those of you who don't know about Shelton, it's about as far away as you can get from the business mainstream.
That's Shelton, Washington.
That's Shelton, Washington.
Okay, I think I've heard of it.
Yeah, over there on the peninsula. Yeah, another 50 miles and you're in the Pacific Ocean, and 30 of those miles are mountains.
Okay.
So this was a manufacturing company, and what they did was they would take these massive ingots of aluminum, like twice the size of your front door and about 8 inches thick, right?
Yeah.
And run them through these big computerized milling machines to make doors for Boeing airplanes. 300-person shop. According to management, it was at max production because all their statistical models, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, we have some kind of communication and morale problems, but, probably not a whole lot you can do here, but we wanted some place to test it. So he said, okay, good, let's do it. So we took all 300 of these people in batches of 100 out for 3 days, and the other ones covered for them. And they did the program. We're kind of making, notes and trying to evaluate it. We come back in 6 weeks, and we actually drove past the plant. We didn't even recognize it, because when we first got there, it was this kind of ratty ass, dirt all over,
Yeah.
The workers had come in, they painted the place, they cleaned it up. Productivity was up 20% and supposedly maxed out, it couldn't possibly be. And in classic entrepreneurial form, the guy who owned it says to himself, this thing's never going to be worth anything more than it is now, so he sells it. So, perfect. Great. My second client was AT&T.
That's crazy.
Okay, now, remember Jim Channon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They had read about stuff he had done. They'd read about this First Earth Battalion. They'd read a little bit about what we'd done. They happened to ask him, hey, who would you recommend for us? We need a big transformation. And he said, talk to these guys. Okay.
This is the biggest company in the world at the time.
The biggest company in the world. So the background here is prior to divestiture, AT&T was the biggest company in the world. Some 450,000 people working for the monopoly phone company all over the country, right? And the judge says, yeah, we can't have a government-supported monopoly here. We got to break this up. You guys got to get competitive. They're spinning off all these what they call baby bells. And the consumer products division of the parent company prior to divestiture was 40,000 people. They had, I think it was 300 or 400 phone stores around the country,
Yeah.
and 23, 24 business offices, okay? The board says to them, you guys have got 18 months to turn this thing around. Oh, I'm sorry, I left out the critical data point. They're losing $220 million a year.
That's important. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. And the board says you got 18 months to turn this thing around, or we're just going to shut it down and do retail through Sears or something.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So what do? They don't know what to do. This is not like there's some Harvard case study on this. So like all big establishment companies, they call McKinsey, the great consulting
I
firm.
remember them, yeah.
McKinsey comes in and takes the head count from 40,000 to 16,000 in 9 months.
Well, that's an easy way to save a lot of money.
Well, it certainly is. And they were quite proud of themselves because their job was to stop the financial hemorrhaging, and lo and behold, it has stopped. And they're completely blind to the fact that so's everything else. This is like the arrogant doctor crowing, the patient's quit bleeding. It's because he died, you moron. So they interviewed 25 firms, and with our vast level of corporate experience, chose us to do this thing. Okay, say Providence. So we went from 5 guys in the cubbyhole in Pioneer Square to 85 guys in 6 months, 85 people in 6 months. We put roughly 4,000 managers inside consumer products through a 5-day residential program, ropes course. It went from 7 in the morning till 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. It was 4 intense days.
Wow.
And we were running as many as 3 of these per week at different sites around the country. That process took about 2 years, and the following 2 more years, so over a total of 4 years, they went from break even, thanks to McKinsey, to generating a cumulative total of $3 billion in profit.
That's unbelievable.
For AT&T, right? None of which, by their own admission, by the admission of the president, divisional presidents, would have happened without us.
Yeah.
Right. So that, of course, launched us. Now I've gone from a business obscuria to center ring in the circus. I'm on the Today Show. I'm on McNeil Lehrer. We're working with Microsoft, Intel, EDS, all these big companies doing this same phenomenal transformational work. And I'm
Talk about
standing
serendipity.
back going, how in the hell did this happen? You know?
First, you start doing some sports stuff. Next thing you know, you're dealing with the special forces.
Right.
And your second client's the biggest company in the world.
The next thing I know, I'm in the boardroom at AT&T, and I'm freaking 36 years old, going, wow, what an amazing life I've got.
My shit don't stink.
Well, I never confused myself that bad.
No, I'm just kidding.
It was good. And then there's downsides that come to it. That's where you start learning some of your life lessons. So I'll give you one quick one, then I know you got to go for
Yeah.
that. So most of my guys, my senior guys, were older than me, right? I'm smart enough to.
Now you recruit all these people yourself.
Yeah. And so, we're cooking along. But in the back of my mind, I realized in retrospect, I had this story. I'm not sure that these guys really trust or respect me because I'm younger than them. So I have to be better than them at everything.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm the leader.
So you kind of got a chip.
So I had to be the best salesperson, which wasn't even my job, but I was. I brought in all the big business.
Yep.
I had to be the best program leader, which I was. All the surveys. Yep. I had to be the best program designer. Yep. And that was me. I had to know more about the finances than everybody. Yep. And I did for a few years. I was king of the room. The problem was, company couldn't grow anymore because I had this limitation. I got to be the best. Well, then how's anybody else going to get past that? So I finally got fried in the process, cost me a marriage, and
just totally burn out.
Yeah, totally. I'd be gone for 3 weeks out of the month. Yeah, out on the road, blah 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 blah, and then I came home. I forget what year this was, and I'm just totally gassed. And my accountant, bookkeeper, comes to me and says, we need to talk. I'm like, yeah, what? He says, we're broke.
Oh my gosh. How could that be?
That's kind of what I said, only in stronger language. I said, what are you talking about? We've been busting my ass. We're cooking. We're doing all these. How can we possibly be broke? Well, the guys who wrote me the check, they've been taking money out because they'd started this little incubator thing, unbeknownst to me, and they were skimming money out of ours to fund some of their other things. None of the other things were working.
Wow.
Yeah, so I go down and have a little chat with them. And they're like, well, we told you this was the deal. I was like, you didn't tell me you're going to strip every little dime out of my company. Anyway,
yeah.
Never mind the
yeah.
lecture. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll sell it all back to you for $1 million. Okay, let me get this straight. You want to sell me,
my company back to me for $1 million after you've kind of financially run it into the ground. I did my part. Did they make sure that you didn't have any weaponry when they were talking to you like that?
Well, they then came to their senses, realizing this guy's not that far removed from the special forces. So I said, here's my counter offer. I'll pay you $10, and I promise not to kill both of you.
Yeah, rightfully so.
Yeah. Well, they took my offer. I have to admit, for the record, I never did pay him the $10, but I didn't kill him. And so that was kind of a low point. We've been on rides, and so it was a slog for a couple of years after that, man. Just trying to put it all back together, and I had to take care of the lawyers also just bankrupt him, man. Just bankrupt it and walk away. You can start all over. And I'm going, wait a minute. You want me, the guy?
That's not your nature.
Yeah, the guy who teaches about integrity, commitment, trust, honesty. You want me to walk away and stiff all these vendors who have been perfectly great with us, right? And I'm going to strand them for tens or thousands or whatever dollars.
That's not going to bode well for your future.
It's not. No, I can't do that. Yeah. So it took me 18 months to pay them all off, but we did. And off we went yet again, new configuration, new team, but
I think that's crazy.
The beat goes on.